Hello, everybody. I am Nu-Trix, the synth guy, and today we're talking about a new synthesizer software from Cherry Audio. Cherry Audio has been really active in making classic vintage synthesizer in a software format, and this time it's the same thing. Now, they attacked the synthesizer called the Synthex from Elka. You go, I know the name, not sure what it is. First of all, Synthex was at the time very advanced for what it was. Sadly for them, in the early 80s, the FM and the digital synthesizer came out. So analog was put aside, and this synthesizer stayed in the history of synthesizer, but it was just eclipsed by the fact that everybody wanted to have a DX7 at the time. Elka-x, the software, is recreating the Synthex as a virtual synthesizer plus more. Of course, when you do synthesizer recreation, at one point you have the question of, do I want to only limit myself to mimicking or recreating the original, or do I want to also give it a modern twist? And that's what they did. So let's just go back and remember what the Elka Synthex was. It was at the time very interesting. You had two timbres, so it was a multi-timbral synthesizer. You could have two timbres to play at the same time. So you could have them on top of each other as layers. You could have them split on the keyboard, like you would play bass and lead, for example, and you could have just solo one of the two. So that was one thing that was interesting. It was created using two DCOs, so digitally controlled oscillators, so still analog, but very stable. The filter is interesting because it's a flexible 4-pole multi-filter. So the filter had a more option that you would see normally at the time. And there's a 4-track monophonic step sequencer. So this is interesting because the 4-track could play the two different patch separately, or they could play the whole thing. And because it's 4-track monophonic, so you could play chords of 4 notes, and each of them has 128 steps. So really powerful, even for today's standard. Let's just jump into it, okay? A lot of really cool sound, and there's the arpeggiator can become some very weird stuff, or can be just a classical. it can be very subtle, very nice, very, what you expect, and it could be very aggressive and weird. So let's just look at how it's made. First of all, the interface itself is very nice and sleek. You have the option here of playing on the screen and use your keyboard to play the keys if you don't have a MIDI keyboard connected to it. You have all the MIDI information on the side. You can assign controllers to whatever you want. You can play with the zoom. You have, information in the back that you can control. The tooltips. One thing that I want to show you also is this. You get the oversampling quality. So in my case, I'm running an older i7. If I do this and I run like 6 of them, it starts being too CPU intensive. So I play with the normal quality, and I'm super happy with that. You also have focus, which, zoom in on the panel, so it's easier for you to see a specific row of information. And I think it's also linked with the size of your screen. In my case, I often keep it at this, but the focus gives me more visual information, or clearer, especially because my eyes are getting old. Let's actually go and just take a tour of what it is. We start with the flow, natural flow in the internal technology or synthesis. So you have the 2 oscillators, okay? So focus, you've got your 2 oscillators. You can control the pitch. You have the transpose for the 1 and the 2 separately, the tuning of them separately. You have how they're going to play. Are you going to play glissando or glide, portamento? Is it going to be affecting just the 1 or just the 2? And the glide amount, the speed and the amount. You also have here the pulse width, if you only select, of course, the pulse width modulation. And you've got here the volume of each of them separately. You also have a third one, which is a noise generator, a control of white and pink noise and the volume. Now, what's interesting about oscillator 1 and 2 is you have a ring modulator. If you click this one, it's going to ring modulate with the second one. If you click this one, it's going to ring. But then it starts to be a little bit bizarre. So really powerful to create weird stuff because of the ring modulator and the fact that you have 2 of them. One can modulate the first one and can modulate the second one, which is interesting. You also have pulse width modulation. So this, let's actually turn off open the filter and turn off the effects. See now, this one does not change. You would have to go here and here. So the pulse width modulation of the second one, this one, is modulated by the pitch of the first one. Again, very creative because you could create these weird frequency, modulation. So I'm not even using LFOs. I'm just using the way these 2 combine. So really powerful right out of the gate. Then you have the multi-mode filter. This is linked to the envelope. In this case, envelope, this one, ADSR, very classic. You've got the resonance. And if you want to look at the type of filter, you've got the low pass 1, 2. So here you have it, 24 dB low pass. This one is 12 dB per octave low pass. You have the band pass, same logic, 6. This should be 12 dB per octave. This is the high pass. and you have envelope invert. So it's the same envelope, but playing the inverted movement. Then you get the 2 envelope, filter, and amplifier. Sound-wise, you still have the LFO here, LFO 1. You have the frequency, the delay, when it's going to start, the depth A and the depth B. So basically, depth 1 is affecting the pitch, and the depth B is the filter. You can reassign that here because you see a routing B, you have it here, filter amplifier or a sequencer rate, which is interesting. So the LFO could play with the speed of the sequencer. Interesting. And here the A, you have also 1, 2, pulse width 1 or pulse width 2. And you can activate them at the same time or not, depending on how you want to do it. And this is the shape of your waveform. Okay? Very straightforward. It does what it's supposed to be doing. And then you've got another LFO here, which is basically an sine wave. And you can look at the speed here and where it's going to be assigned, to the oscillator or to the filter. You have the chorus effect. You can activate that. The street level of it. Check out that there's no volume. It's just like you turn it on or off. So it's a little bit like a classic chorus effect. Then you got the echo, standard, tape echo. I'll get these weirds. So try another one, like this one. So you get the sync, you get the feedback. Get an high pass or a low pass. So you can basically you're cutting on one side or the other. How much effects you want to hear, and the spread. How wide you want to hear it. Okay? And then you have a reverb. So reverb, get the room, plate, all, and galactic. Now galactic is part of the effects that Cherry Audio sells by itself. You can just buy the plugin that is a reverb, galactic reverb, and I did a video about it. So check out that on my YouTube channel. You have the layer volume, the layer pan. So you go, okay, what layer? The one you're working on, and that's probably one of the most important part in all of this is if you look at the entire panel. This entire panel can be just for the lower sound or just for the upper sound. Or you can click on utility and say, I'm going to copy layer 1 to layer 2 or A to B. Or I can reset the layers. I can copy the effects. I can import stuff. So it's really going to be, are you working on 1 or 2? And by working on 1 and 2, that's where you can control the volume of the layer. So each layer has the arpeggiator, which is, again, very simple. You have off, up, down, up and down, random, hold, and the whole range, whatever. So you can have that, let's say, on the lead. Again, remember that this can be played with 2 different sounds. And let's say your upper keys are a lead that has an arpeggiator that could be on 2 octave, and your bass is another arpeggiator that is on just 1 octave. So there are going to be 2 different patterns. Or you could have one, let's say the bass with an arpeggiator and the lead with step sequencer. So really powerful in that case. And the rest of the buttons are basically on the way you're going to play. So the keyboard, are you in single mode? Are you in double mode? So they're going to be layered. Are you in split mode? So one on each side. And the maximum voices. Now, this goes way beyond the original device. It goes to 16 voices, of course. That's where you don't limit yourself to the original hardware. But that's the option here. And again, you know that if you ask for 16, it's going to ask for more DSP. So stay within the amount of notes that you really need. And the fact that you, let's say, limit to 6 and you play 8, you're going to have some note stealing. So it's part of the sound of certain synthesizers. So it's not a bad thing by itself. Now, under that, you've got the choice. Are you going to be in poly mode, so polyphonic keys? Are you going to be in mono mode for this sound, or single, or uni, which is unison? So all on one key, and you want them to be detuned. Let's take off this. Galactic also. Yeah, the detune, yeah. Has a very nice sound. You have the chord memory, so you can play chords by itself and by one key, multi-trigger, and oscillator 2 sync. Then the next big part is the step sequencer. You have 4 of them, so each of them can have up to 128 steps. You go edit, and then you enter. You switch to, when I note here, next one, add step. Next one's going to be here, and add, and rest. And utility, you can work on, let's say, transpose the first sequence, copy the sequence to the next one, clear the sequence. So it's more like, utility functions, basically. And you can control the gate, the sync, and the rate. And that's it. So you can have the 4 of them playing. Let's actually, now that you have this, let's look at some of the sound that uses the we have 2 sounds here on the same keys. So we have a kind of a bass line lead that's short, and you have this pad. Very nice, very, very floating. And then you go, well, there's a drum happening here. Okay. The drum is made using one oscillator, one layer, and working with an arpeggiator of 1 octave. So you go boom, 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 boom. That's it. The other one is playing the arpeggiator or the sequencer that we hear. That's where we have it. So I'll show you an example of what I did using all of that. This one here. This is using presets, sounds. It's just like one key playing, that's it. Just like one key. So this whole sequence is in the sequencer of the Elka-x. And the kick is using the other oscillator or the other layer for just being an arpeggiator of a kick. And then we turn again, this is just 1 note at a time. The arpeggiator is taking over. Monophonic with the glide. there's a drum now. Yeah, there's a drum. So this one is playing a hi-hat. It's 2 layers, one being the other one just being the kick. And then everything goes back to a nice pad that has movement. And then start the song again. Very fun, very fast to create stuff. Again, the presets, stop this. Presets are really well done. There's a lot of them. I have the beta version / almost ready version. I'm guessing you're gonna have even more presets in it and even more interesting because every time I used it, there was like new presets in it. So I'm guessing you're gonna have even more stuff to choose from. So the presets that are there are really useful and you know, gives you the right notion of how to use it. Pretty cool. I like the sound of it. It has that roundness, that analogish sound that I like. That's it. Cherry Audio, another good synth. Good job. That's it for me for now, for today. Have fun, make music, take the time to create and relax. See you soon. Cheers.